Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Jev, yes, Triple V. The accent, by the way, is purely Kiwi. I read old stories for children, so we keep this a family-friendly channel by having bad word blockers, banning bots, and preventing spam. So that means new followers need to wait a few minutes before they can join in the chat. Since these stories are so old, they're now in the public domain, which means they are free to read for anyone and by anyone, the way many Christmas songs are. The digital versions I read are from Project Gutenberg, and you'll find the link for that below. The physical ones are just old books my family has lying around. Sometimes I'll even show them to you. These, by the way, are live reads. Think of them as bedtime stories rather than actual audiobooks. You get the benefits of my mistakes, distractions, explanations, and terrible attempts at accents, along with plenty of chat and interruptions as we find out about things in the story. If you need to do work or chores, then that's fine. Just come and lurk. Please adjust your volume to suit. There are captions available if you have to be quiet or you have hearing challenges, but be warned, sometimes the captions aren't always that accurate. I am a member of the Codex, an awesome group of reading streamers on Twitch. People from many walks of life who share their love of reading, and you'll find links to the Codex reading team and our Discord server below. A special feature of the Codex Discord is the security channel for those of you who stream or moderate. You'll find lots of practical, useful information to help keep your stream and your community safe. So, hang around and come discover adventure with me. You never know what we'll find.
Hello, everybody. I am here. Yes, the microphone's working. Yay. Hi, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Rain is everywhere at the moment, and let's blame it on the wind because the sound of the wind constantly in the chimney, plus the fact that because it's a bit warmer and it's been raining, so therefore flies are in the house because that's what happens here, means we've also got doors that are away from the wind all open, but I get extra sounds coming in. It's just like, my brain is not coping. There's too much stuff going on. So hopefully I'll be able to, once we get going here, I'll be fine, because I'll be concentrating on the story. But don't be surprised if along the way it's just a little bit disconnected. I'm going to move this because I haven't charged it up yet. I rediscovered it. It was one of the LED lights that I bought myself ages ago. Technically, I think this is one you can use as a speaker, but you tell me if you would want to use that as a speaker, if that's the size of the speaker mesh. I'm pretty sure I think it was meant to be a speaker as well. I don't know, can't remember. It may have actually just been that it was a light and that was the input for being sound responsive. But I will get it going again. I just have to find the right cable for it. No, I know what the right cable is. It's the one that I've got most of my cables of, which is USB-C these days. Have you ever had it where you have lots of charge cables, not attached to anything, just sort of USB-A on one end and whatever on the other end? Hi, Void, great to have you here. Lovely to see you. And you go to charge or plug in something and it's of a sort that you used to have lots and lots of cables for that particular end, like micro USB. And then when you go to actually use this device, it's like, where are all the cables with that end? I can't find any. Yeah. I have that with micro USB specifically. I was trying to charge something that was micro USB and I couldn't find any. They're probably all stored in a box because I cleared them off my desk because I wasn't using them, thinking that I still had one here that I could use. I try and keep at least one of a different sort. There's also mini USB, which is the one which micro USB is flat along the bottom and then it's got a curve that comes up to the top and then it's flat along the top. USB-C is completely curved at each end, so that's the newer of those three small ones. Kia ora to you too. Lovely, thank you. And mini USB is the one that's flat along the bottom and then it comes up and it comes in and then it comes up again. Yes, well done. They are working, and then it's flat along the top, so it's got this funny angle, little shaping in it. And that's the first of those three sorts of small USB cable ends. My microphone is mini USB. It's the design on it is that old, and I think originally when Blue was still Blue, not Blue owned by Logitech, they had considered the possibility of upgrading that connection point on the back of them, but it never happened. It's the way life goes. And then they became part of Logitech, and I don't think it's part of Logitech's interest. I like my microphone. It's in some ways it's quite a classic look. That's the back of it, which you usually see. This is the side that I usually see, and it has this lovely. I don't think that's chromed. This is chromed plastic. This is a slightly different color metal, and it may actually be nickel plated. Is that what the old one was that they used to use for things like bumpers and stuff like that on cars? Mini USB end is like a stretched pentagon. USB-C is rounded rectangle or a stretched circle. Yeah, that's a good way to put them. And then the micro is the one that's in between the two. Right, so I love my microphone. It works really well for me. The biggest thing for cheap microphones that most people don't realize, not the super cheap ones, but average cheap ones, people say, oh, you should have these sort of microphones, you should spend your money on this sort of stuff. Yeah, well, when you sponsor me to do that, I will maybe. You can tell I have lived most of my life only having barely scratchable pocket money sort of quantities. So for me, I did a lot of research to find out about it, and PJ gave me this one. Coffee Boy gave me this one, and I love it. It's not the Snowball Ice, which is the lower level one. The Snowball Ice is the one which has a smaller band at the bottom where the legs come out from, if you're visually trying to tell the difference. It's also not quite as good a quality diaphragm inside it, so it doesn't pick up quite as well. Sponsored by Kiwi, yeah, that would be really cool. But the trick with most mid-range, not expensive, but above entry level, effectively above entry level USB microphones, which are usually, I can't remember, there's dynamic and there's condenser, and I can never remember which is which. Anyway, it's the one that's not the professional standard ones. The trick with most of them is, if you are using OBS to do your streaming and you use a microphone, or you use something that has a microphone embedded in it, you can set filters for it. And most of the issues that people have with USB microphones, saying they sound very thin, saying they aren't quite as good at this or that, can actually be corrected by using filters. And I know people who use microphones as technically cheap as this, or even cheaper, that actually have better sound than people who have the really expensive microphones, like really expensive, the ones which have that other sort of cable which Sound Labs and things like that use. I know those cables. I have used them a lot for other purposes, because I used to be a sound technician for two different bands. Well, I was an assistant sound technician for one of them. I was the principal one for the other one. And also doing sound tech for churches for a long time. In a church where you have to pack up, you have to set up every week before the service, and then you have to pack up after the service, because it is a multi-use space, community hall. So you get very, very, very familiar with the technical gear that you're working with. And so I have base level microphones that, if I was using the sort that you would use for that sort of stuff, I would go with those. There's a couple of other ones that are similar level. But if you're ever wondering, if you ever get the chance to buy a fancier microphone, one of the more professional style ones, and you haven't got lots of money, they're still probably more expensive than what I've got. But you can't go wrong with getting an SM58, which is a super basic band microphone. And the reason I say that is an SM58 has been designed and built to be rugged. It has been designed to be used where it is set up and packed up repeatedly and used in live performance, not studio, live performance. So as long as you can even get secondhand ones, as long as you listen to it and see what what it sounds like, that there's no issues with it, that the capsule hasn't been wrecked. That's the little diaphragm inside it that picks up the sound and sends the electrical signal through to whatever it is that's processing it. If you get stuck and you have the cabling for it, which is I used to call it DIN, but it's not DIN. I can't remember what it's called. The proper one, that's a circle which has got 3 pins in it. Those are the proper ones for them. I should know the names for it. Mentally, I can't remember them at the moment. I will probably remember in the middle of the night. But if you have any of those cables and a desk to run it through, just because that's what you have, because maybe they've been gifted to you. If you need a basic microphone and you want something that's going to last the distance, just get a Shure SM58. It will cope. I have seen ones where the mesh outside the dome that goes outside the actual capsule, the bit that you see, Some of them are really shiny, not the SM58 ones aren't, but other ones like the angular shaped ones. They're really chromed and shiny and stuff like that, which just looks like too try hard to me. And don't get gold colored stuff. That just looks, people think this is really fancy. It's the same with tapware, faucets. People think, oh, this is really cool, this is really fancy, this looks like I've got lots of money. No, it doesn't. It looks like you are cheap, really cheap, because they actually use brass, they super polish it, and then they put a lacquer finish over it, and it goes, the lacquer finish scrapes off and it goes all tarnished. And if it is actually gold plated, the gold plating is so thin, it rubs off or scrapes off so easily, and then it gets tarnished, and it looks worse than something that was chromed. Because chrome is actually quite hard, and like with tapware faucets, the silver colored tapware is coated with a chrome plating, and that is a thicker plating than what you get if you are using an expensive metal. And it's a lot harder, and so it doesn't actually come off as easily. And it's the same with microphones and stuff like that, either stainless steel finished dome or a chromed one. If it has to be shiny, then it's probably chromed. But if you are going for an average microphone, don't get something that's got color in the mesh. It'll get chipped off, or it'll get scraped off, or it'll get worn off, and it just looks stupid. Honestly, if you don't want to look stupid, don't do those sort of things to it. It's not cool. It won't stay looking cool for long. Now, if you are someone who paints them yourself, like Gail Level does, he will get a microphone and he will disassemble it and spray paint it and stuff like that. If you get one that's already powder coated, that's a much thicker coating, but that will be a color, not a metallic. So it will be like white or something like that, because this one only comes in black. But with your average microphones, if you want a cheap average microphone, that's one of the sorts that's, you know, the proper plugs and all that sort of stuff, and you've got a sound desk or whatever, then just get an SM58 or anything else that's equivalent to that. And yes, I will be doing my tips video very, very shortly. Why am I ranting about this? Cables. That's the fault of the cables. Me talking about cables, and I don't even remember why I was talking about cables, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I do have a bit of experience when it comes to some sound gear. Not everything, because you learn your specialty. Hi Shu, welcome. You just missed the big rant about microphones. Actually, you didn't. So you don't need fancy stuff for streaming. This is a reminder to everybody who does stream or who wants to stream, who is planning to stream, who is getting themselves set up. If you are face on camera, or if you are using a VTuber setup where you have a camera that tracks you and then your computer puts a skin on it, you need decent lighting. If you have trouble with if you're a VTuber and you have trouble with the movements that it's interpreting to display on screen being jerky, you probably need better lighting. You don't need fancy lights. I've got an LED bulb up here. I've got it turned on as, this one's a Wi-Fi one with adjustments. But you can get the brightest normal household lamp or light bulb that you can get. An LED one. The household ones for normal room use do not flicker, because they have found that flickering lights actually cause people to have epileptic fits. So they don't. Use a bike light. That's another brilliant idea. Get creative. So if you are a VTuber and you have stuttering problems or jerky problems with the movement of your model, make sure you are well lit to both sides of your face, because then the program that is processing what your camera is picking up can actually see what's going on. If you find that your character is always like this, with one eye open and one eye shut, and very occasionally one pops open, you'll probably find that the one that does that with the eye is not getting quite as much light on that eye on your face. I have actually experimented with VTubing. not to stream, but just to see how the systems work. You don't want to wave and the camera picks up a middle finger, not very nice. Yes, if you're doing a normal wave, or putting your hand up for some reason and your camera doesn't pick it up well, as Boyd says, so you end up with your camera thinking that you have flipped the bird. That creeps me out so much. What, the one where it's going like this at you all the time when they're talking to you and their eyes going like this and you're thinking, oh my goodness, that person's got a twitch, but it's actually their VTube skin. I don't think they call it a skin, but I know people who used to be animators, and so the visual that we see is the skin to me, because that's what they used to refer to. So there's all that sort of thing. But you don't need fancy lights. Don't go and get photographer's studio lights unless you already have them for stuff that you already do. Then you can reuse them for streaming. Do not spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on lighting. Go to the hardware store or the grocery store and look at the lights that you can buy. The light bulbs, if you're going to a technical electrical place, they probably call them lamps. It's used to, whereas to you and me, a lamp is the fitting that it sits in and all that sort of stuff. This part here is the light bulb. To most of us, the whole contraption is the lamp, okay? But to electricians in New Zealand, that is the lamp. This bulb part is the lamp. I don't know why, that's just how it is. It's one of those technical things. Anyway, so go to the hardware store, go to the grocery store first. If it's one that sells household goods as part of it, like that sort of thing, ours does. And just get yourself, have a look at the LED bulbs and get the brightest one you can get that's a normal one. And it fits the sort of normal lamp fittings that you have. I've got above me, pointing down onto my desk, which spills across to me, I actually have a little one of those lamps that has, like the Pixar lamp with the folding in the middle, where it's fastened at the base and the lampshade's on the top and the bulb's pointing out. Got one of those. It's slightly bigger than that one. I've got that up there, and I just have that turned on, and it just gives, that's what this lighting is here. Now that one, I used to have a little bit of tracing paper hanging over it. One of the good things about using LED bulbs, as long as they're not like workshop bright, they usually don't get too much heat building up. So you can actually hang a piece of tracing paper, draftsperson's tracing paper, over it. I'd made a little cone shape, so it just hooks over the back of the lampshade, and it's not sealed at the back, so any air can get through it anyway. It's not too hot, but also look at what color light that you are using. For me, because I want to be able to get a clean color profile, not in the artist sense of the word for when you're using monitors and stuff, ignore that. If I have ones that are not color adjustable, these ones are, but if I have ones that are not color adjustable, I will get a cool LED lamp, not a warm one, because a warm one will make my skin look too yellow. And if it's cool, then it's a lot more of a neutral, so you can make adjustments using your filters in OBS. You can adjust that. It's under hue or color temperature or something like that. No, it's hue actually, but if you have a little wee plugin like I do called Camooz, C-A-M-O-O-Z, I can save the settings for my camera. And in there, I can tell it what color I want the light that comes through the camera to be toned to overall. Cold bulb versus a warm one. Yes, it's not the actual physical temperature, it's the light color. So the lower the number, the warmer the color. So it has more yellow in it, more golden in it. But if you take it up to the other end, really cold with more blue toned, that's like 6,000 or 7,000 K, I think. Whereas the standard room yellow is, I think, about 3,000. Most of the stuff that I have here, I run at about 5,000 if it's one that I can adjust. If there's a system to adjust it. Not the bulbs themselves, but the filter that goes through my camera handler. 6,500. Okay, thanks. Cool. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that, but most things you can adjust in OBS if you are streaming through filters. You can do it with audio, you can do it with cameras. Okay, it's really worth it. And there are a lot of filters that are actually built into the system that you just have to turn on, and then you can play with them, you can adjust them. If you do not have your face on camera, if you are not using a VTuber skin or a PNG tuber skin or anything else like that, then you can ignore anything I say about cameras, okay? If you use a camera, if you are a gamer, if you are a typical gamer, not a me type of gamer, and you have a little wee postage stamp sized picture of you in produced by your camera at the side of your game or somewhere around the edge of your game, and it is literally about this, usually no bigger than what this box is here with the keywords in it. If you have something like that, do not spend anything more than basic pocket money dollars on a webcam if you haven't already got one. Yes, you could get a C920 Logitech camera. They are still around, but you don't even need that. You can use a C270, which is what I have, which is what I use for my cat camera. You can't actually, there are a lot of adjustments you can't make to it. It is really basic. But if you are only this big on screen, you do not need to have any more detail than that. Do not spend thousands of dollars and say that people are not coming and watching your stream because your camera's not good enough. If your picture is only this big, they won't be able to see the difference. Save yourself the money. Go and get some yummy food instead. Jeff says you can, okay? Yeah, that's a good one. If you are the main feature, if you are the person talking to camera that takes up a good portion of your space, where the visuals are more important, you still don't have to go and get a photographer's camera or a videographer's camera. Very few, I won't say absolutely nobody, almost nobody watches at 4K resolution of the stream that they are watching. Most streamers cannot cope with, their computers cannot cope with producing a 4K resolution camera picture to send it up to Twitch servers. So save your money. They don't actually come for how good your camera is anyway. They come for you. They come for how you get on with them and how you make them feel. Okay? Oh, he's not there. Sorry, Void, but at least you get the Pest Sprout and Quest Sprout to keep you company instead. Yeah, so secondary camera. This one here is a C270. In fact, I can show you what they look like. These are still available in New Zealand. Retail. So people, I used to get so annoyed. There'd be streamers who would, well-known streamers, reviewing cameras and all this sort of stuff, webcams specifically, supposedly to be helpful to beginning streamers. And they'd say, oh, you can get a C270 for about $25 or $50. Well, I'll have you know that a C270 in New Zealand is still $75 to $90 New Zealand. That may not be worth much in American dollars, but I don't earn American dollars. Well, actually, I do off Twitch, but still. My grocery shopping is done in New Zealand dollars. The money that pays for anything around our house is earned in New Zealand dollars. And what you earn if you are American with your dollar numbers, the numbers are probably similar to the numbers that I receive at my end. So with the exchange rate, everything is much more expensive over here for me. If you are coming here and you are bringing American dollars and exchanging it into New Zealand dollars, bless, you are in such a good space because you get so much more money's worth. So this is a C270. I'll fold it up. This is how it looks when it comes. It's like this. It's got a little wee leg that folds down, that little nook in there. is so that you can hook it on the top of your monitor and that leg props against the back of your monitor and you have it sitting over the top of your monitor. So you are looking kind of in the right direction. I know I don't look at my actual camera lens most of the time. I look just below it at the picture of me that's talking to you because I'm talking to another person, because I don't mirror my camera. I have my camera showing on my screen exactly the same way you guys see it. So it's like I'm talking to another person, because when I move this, personally, when I move this way on my screen, the character moves the opposite way. It's not like I'm looking in a mirror. It's actually, I've tried it once where I flipped the camera and it was just so weird. Speaking of flipping the camera, if you're a gamer, more talk for the gamers. So yeah, they are a brilliant entry-level camera. You can't adjust the focal length on them, which what I've got does do. Another gift from PJ, because he actually won it on one of No Hands' streams, because No Hands used to be sponsored by Logitech and used to be given different bits of tech to be able to either use or to give away on his streams. I don't think he is these days. But PJ won it and he wasn't streaming, so he gifted it to me. So I've got a Logitech Stream Cam, that's what it's called. It works really nicely. Some of its reviews are great and some of them aren't. Cameras, yeah. So if you've got your little postage, even smaller than these two guys in their little layout box, if you are a gaming streamer who has your camera on the side and your game is here, look at what it looks like to everybody else, even if you look at one of your old streams, okay? So if your camera, sorry, I'll do it this way. If your camera is over here and you are looking that way and yet the game is over here on your video screen that everybody is looking at, it looks a bit weird. It's like your little avatar here, your little picture of you over here has got your face hard up against the wall and is looking at the chat box. Like, huh? If you're using OBS, right click on the camera source in your scene and go to transform and then go flip horizontally, and it will change you from being like this to being like this. Okay, yeah, the parting in your hair will be on the wrong side, but you're the only one who's going to notice that. It's not like you have your name written across you and suddenly it's back to front. It's mirror image. No, it's a simple thing that you can do. When you've got your little camera over at the side of the scene over here, instead of looking like this while you're playing this really engrossing game over here and you're really involved with it, but everybody else is watching the game over here and your picture on screen is avidly watching over here, you actually will be this way looking at what's going on the screen. Doesn't that make a lot more sense? And yeah, don't spend the money on the camera unless you've already got one. If you've already got one, use it. Also, if you've got a reasonable mid-range mobile phone, actually not even that, even most basic ones now, the camera on a mobile phone is more than good enough to stream with. There you go. So these are all your little tech talks today. I think that's it. I don't think there was anything else. Yeah, things that irk me when I'm watching somebody else's stream is a lot of the time that's what that is. I've seen people who have been streaming for a long time who still haven't got that whole thing of flip the camera. It's not hard. Or shove it from its position over here to over here if you don't want to flip it. So yes, you are looking at the scene that you're playing. Because anything that causes your audience to be to feel a disconnect between you and what you are doing doesn't really help them to engage and want to be there. Unless it's being played for comedy, in which case, yeah, go for it. Have at it. Do as much stupid with your camera set up as you want, if that's what they enjoy and keep coming back for. So, if you are not a streamer, if you are not a moderator, Hi, welcome. I do actually read books. I don't just do tech talks. I don't do TED Talks, I do tech talks occasionally. Usually about whatever it is that's been irking me most recently. And that today's wasn't even about something that was irking me specifically before I started. It was more the thought of, it was something to do with cables. I was dealing with cables, and so I thought of it. You never know where you're going to go with one of my rants. I start off with talking about the ends of USB cables. I've got a little bundle of them that I've got hanging through a loop that's attached to something on my desk. And it's really cool. It means that they don't get run over by my chair, because that would wreck them. You don't need to ask me how I know. But see, what we were talking about, the ends of cables. This is a Apple one. What do they call them? I don't know what they call them. Sorry? Is that what they call them? This is just the standard ones. And yes, I am putting my hand behind it because the autofocus on my camera, if it sees my face, will not focus on anything else. So this one here is USB-C. No, that one there is USB-C. And this one here is an Apple charge cable, Lightning. Cheapy, not proper Apple, because I can't afford a proper Apple thing. And I don't use enough proper Apple things that are new enough to have any benefit from that. Alright, just going to pull the cable back through so I don't run over it. So yeah, I just have a bundle of them. They all hang down from this loop. And then if I need them, I'm not going to run over the end and wreck it or anything like that. Right, so let's read. We are reading the last, I hope I've still got time, the last few chapters of the Bobbsey Twins, or Merry Days Indoors and Out, the first book in the Bobbsey Twins series, written by the pseudonymous, the author is Laura Lee Hope is the pseudonym of the actual author, and we think it was actually Edward Stratemeyer wrote the first one. We don't know, but this one was published in 1904. So let's go. No, let's have a tip video and then we will read it. Okay, so who have we got today for our tips? I don't know. And welcome back. Yes, did you hear a weird noise? That was because I was having a sip of my iced coffee. We have our bottles of water here. I have topped them up. I have marked where we got to. So the last time we got down to here for the one that said ghost, because we finally got that in the story. So that's how much we drank, all of that. I have topped them up, all of them up, so that we are starting from scratch. So this one here was the 6th of April, so that was the one prior, no, 2 prior to that. That was the most we've ever done in one. That was for snow. I remember that one. Oh, sloshing at the end of the read. And this one here, both the 6th and the 10th were actually at the same line, which is this one here. So they're all ready to go. There's your keywords. Let's get going. We are reading chapter 20 of the Bobbsey Twins. It is St. Valentine's Day. So here we go. St. Valentine's Day was now close at hand, and all of the children of the neighbourhood were saving their money with which to buy valentines. And this is something which has never been strong in New Zealand. It happens a bit, but it's more about selling chocolate and selling cards and selling other bits and pieces, not actually about affection and appreciation. So let's carry on here. We will get there. Oh, I've got to unlock it again. So they were saving their money with which to buy valentines. I know just the ones I'm going to get, said Nan. I want some big red hearts, put in Freddie. Just love hearts, I do. I want the kind you can look into, came from Flossie. Don't you know the kind that fold up? 2 days before Valentine's Day, the children gathered around the sitting room table and began to make valentines. They had paper of various colours and pictures cut from old magazines. It's really funny, really funny. There was a page turn, and they had, the word was hyphenated in the middle because line length. They had paper of so my brain was going to go Valentines, but it's not, various. It was various. The word was various. They worked very hard, and some of the valentines thus manufactured were as good as many that can be bought. Oh, I just saw the valentine for Freddie, whispered Nan to Bert. It has a fireman running to a fire on it. There were a great many mysterious little packages brought into the house on the afternoon before St. Valentine's Day, and Mr. Bobbsey had to supply quite a few postage stamps. My, but the postman will have a lot to do tomorrow, said Mr. Bobbsey. He will from everyone's house, I would guess, back then in Story World. If this keeps on, he'll want his wages increased, I'm afraid. The fun began early in the morning. On coming down to breakfast, each of the children found a valentine under his or her plate. They were all very pretty. Where in the world did they come from? Cried Nan. Oh, Mamma, did you put them there? No, Nan, said Mrs. Bobbsey. Then it must have been Dinah, said Nan, and rushed into the kitchen. Oh, Dinah, how good of you. Expect it's from St. Valentine, said the cook, smiling broadly. Oh, I know you, said Nan. It's just lubby, cried Freddie, breaking out into his baby talk. Just lubby, Dinah. Such a big red heart, too. The postman came just before it was time to start for school. He brought 6 valentines, 3 for Flossie, 2 for Freddie, and 1 for Bert. Oh, Nan, where's yours? Cried Bert. I guess he forgot me, said Nan, rather soberly. Oh, he has made some mistake, said Bert, and ran after the letterman. But it was of no use. All the mail for the Bobbseys had been delivered. Never mind, he'll come again this afternoon, said Mrs. Bobbsey, who saw how keenly Nan was disappointed. Yes, back in the old days, if you lived in the cities, especially in certain parts of the cities, you would get 2 mail deliveries a day if there was enough mail for you that had been processed. Where I live in New Zealand, we get mail every second day at the maximum. Like how close together it will be. They're talking about making it once a week. Yay, thank you, economisation. Thank you, government, who decided, let's split the parcel division from the letter division, and then we can actually contract out the parcel work and make money off it instead of it being a service. Because now that we have the money-making thing in our heads, we are going to go, oh no, letters don't make enough money. Let's save money on supporting this service by not running the service as often. And people go, oh, there's no point in sending a letter. It'll take too long to get there because it's got an extra day in the process. I'll just send an email. And so you get even less letters. And now they're talking about cutting it down even further or making it so you have to go and collect your letters. The problem with that is people can't afford to have a post office box, or a box where you collect your mail from at a central place, because in New Zealand you have to pay for those as a separate charge. They are not standard. That is why I actually have post office box service as one of my community contribution gifts on my throne wish list. None of us have contributed to it, even me, but it is something that one day I would like to have, because I go into town every week anyway, so I can just pick something up. And these days you can actually check to see if there's any mail waiting for you, so it would save you even having to go to the post office if they didn't have anything. Yay. Anyway, so all of that to say, back in the old days, in a lot of towns and cities, they used to deliver mail twice in one day. Strange world back then. On her desk in school, Nan found 2 valentines from her schoolmates. One was very pretty, but the other was homemade and represented a girl running away from a figure labelled Ghost. Nan put this out of sight as soon as she saw it. And by the way, we are drinking some water because we've had the word ghost in the text of the story. First drink of the stream for a keyword. All that day, valentines were being delivered in various ways. Freddie found one in his cap, and Bert one between the leaves of his geography book. Flossie found one pinned to her cloak, and Nan received another in a pasteboard box labelled breakfast food. This last was made of paper roses and was very pretty, so probably it was in a box so the paper roses wouldn't get damaged. The letterman came that afternoon. Why is he not the mailman? Why is he called a letterman? Why do we suddenly go from postman to letterman? This book is the first time I've ever heard them called that. Have you heard them called that before? I haven't. Let's get reading. The letterman came that afternoon just as they arrived home from school. This time he had 3 valentines for Nan and several for others. Some were comical, but most of them were beautiful and contained very tender verses. There was much guessing as to who had sent each. I've received just as many as I sent out, said Nan, counting them over. I sent out 2 more than I received, said Bert. Never mind, Bert. Boys don't expect so many as girls, said Nan, which actually makes it sting all the more that she got none in the morning and he got one. I'd like to know who sent that mean thing that was marked Ghost, went on her twin brother. You better be drinking every time we have one of these keywords. We are hydrating together. Every time I drink water on stream, you are drinking water. And since I'm drinking water for the hydration drinking game, you are too. Keeping an eye out for it. And if I miss a word that is one of our snow or ghost keywords, then you need to type the command, either key or K word, in chat so that we all know we have to, okay? And then give me a thumbs up or a water bottle emote or both of them in chat to say that you've done it, that you've had your drink of water. We are trying to make sure that we all stay well hydrated. Let's carry on. It must have come from Danny Rugg, said Bert, and he was right. It had come from Danny, but Nan never let him know that she had received it, so his hoped-for fun over it was spoilt. In the evening there was more fun than ever. All of the children went out and dropped valentines on the front piazzas of their friends' houses. I didn't know they lived in Italy. The front step, the front porch, the stoop. I don't know why it's called a stoop, but I've never got that one before. I used to think it meant front step, but it actually means that front landing that the steps come up to before the door. Apparently, I don't know. I'm ignorant of these sort of things. I'm just a country girl from a place that doesn't use fancy words. As soon as a valentine was dropped, the doorbell would be given a sharp ring, and then everybody would run and hide and watch to see who came to the door. It's kind of like Ding Dong Ditch, but with a prize at the end instead of just a nothing. When the Bobbsey children went home, they saw somebody on their own front piazza. Really? This word that you keep using, I do not think it means what you think it means. It was a boy, and he was on his knees placing something under the doormat. I really believe it is Danny Rugg, cried Nan. Wait, I'll go and catch him, said Bert, and started forward. But Danny saw him coming and leapt over the side rail of the piazza and ran ran to the back garden. "Stop," called Bert. "I know you, Danny Rugg." "I ain't Danny Rugg," shouted Danny in a rough voice. "I'm somebody else." He continued to run, and Bert made after him. At last Danny reached the back fence. There was a gate there, but this was kept locked by Sam so that tramps might be kept out. For the moment, Danny did not know what to do. Then he caught hold of the top of the fence and tried to scramble over, but there was a sharp nail there, and on this his jacket caught. "I've got you now," exclaimed Bert, and made a clutch for him. But there followed the sound of ripping cloth, and Danny disappeared into the darkness, wearing a jacket that had a big hole torn in it. "Was it really Danny?" questioned Nan, when Bert came back from the front piazza. "Yes, and he tore his coat. I heard it rip." I have no idea, but my phone is trying to actually listen to me, and it shouldn't be. So I'm not even going to have it available for me to do my light control. It's never done that to me before. Because usually my phone, if it's going to listen to my voice, I have to activate that function. And I hadn't. That's strange. Very weird. Maybe it's Ghost. Sorry, carrying on. "Yes, and he tore his coat. I heard it rip. What do you think of that?" Nan pointed to an object on the piazza half under the doormat. There lay a dead rat, and around its neck was a string to which was attached a card reading, "Nan and Bert Bobbsey's ghost." "This is certainly awful," said Bert. Ghost, by the way. I have a feeling we're going to get a long way through this water bottle. The noise on the piazza had brought Mrs. Bobbsey to the door. At the sight of the dead rat, thank you, Shoo, well done. At the sight of the dead rat, which Freddie had picked up by the tail, she gave a slight scream. "Oh, Freddie, leave it go," she said. "It won't hurt you, Mamma," said the little boy. "The reel has gone out of it." But how did it get here?" "Danny Rugg brought it," said Bert. "Look at the tag." He cut the tag off with his pocket knife and flung the rat into the garbage can. All went into the... I want my hands to be very well washed now, and then not sterilised, but disinfected, you know. Yuck. The amount of germs on rats, and then on top of that it's a dead one, and we don't know how long it is. This is making my skin creep. I'm not squeamish generally, but it's like, yuck. All went into the house, and Mrs. Bobbsey and her husband both read what Danny Rugg had written on the card. "This is going too far," said Mr. Bobbsey. "I must speak to Mr. Rugg about this." And he did the very next day. As a result, and for having torn his jacket, Danny received the hardest thrashing he had got in a year. Oh dear. Yes, they used to do that. So let's just close the door on that part of the way life used to be. This made him more angry than ever against Bert. Of course it did. And also angry at the whole Bobbsey family, but he did not dare to do anything to hurt them at once for fear of getting caught. Winter was now going fast, and before long the signs of spring began to show on every hand. Spring made Freddie think of a big kite that he had stored away in the garret or attic. And one Saturday he and Bert brought the kite forth and fixed the string and tail. "There is a good breeze blowing," said Bert. "Let us go and fly it on Roscoe's Common." "I want to see you fly the kite," said Flossie. "Can I go along?" "Yes, come on," said Bert. Flossie had been playing with the kitten and hated to leave it, so she went down to the common with Snoop in her arms. "Don't let Snoop run away from you," said Bert. "He might not find his way back home." The common was a large one with an old disused barn at one end. Freddie and Bert took the kite to one end, and Freddie held it up while Bert prepared to let out the string and run it up, as he called it. And there is a picture, and no, it will not open for me. Oh, I just kept repeatedly tapping it, and it did. It hasn't done that last time I tried that. We have a picture. Let's see if I can get it to show properly for you. There you go. So there's the kite at the top. And there's the old barn, and there's the kids running around, and it looks like the kitten has grabbed the tail of the kite. And we haven't got to that part yet. I'm going to find out. Right. So I just have to remember to keep tapping at it to see if I can get the picture to pop out. Bert prepared to let out the string and run it up, as he called it. Now, as it happened, the eyes of Snoop were fixed on the long tail of the kite, and when it went trailing over the ground, Snoop leapt from Flossie's arms and made a dash for it. The kitten's claws sunk fast in the tail, and in a moment more, the kite went up into the air, and Snoop with it. "Oh, my kitten!" called out Freddie. "Snoop has gone up with the kite." And that's the end of the chapter. It's a bit weird. Oh, that's why I was talking about cables. I was talking about getting that charged. Just wondering if I've got any cables here that I can charge it with. What's that one got on the end? I'm trying to remember which one's which now. Because I do have some permanent plugged in. That one's an Apple one. That's for my iPad mini, my old iPad that's being used as a reader. Okay, I won't plug it in now. We shall carry on reading. Chapter 21, The Rescue of Snoop the Kitten. It was certainly something that nobody had been expecting. Hang on, let's see how many chapters we've got in this book. Oh, we've only got one more chapter after this, so that's good. We're sorted. Come on, go back to the chapter. Here we go. It was certainly something that nobody had been expecting, and as the kite went higher and higher, and Snoop with it, both Flossie and Freddie set up a loud cry of fear. Yeah, they'd be very worried about their kitten, because there are only 4, remember. We have to keep remembering that. I wouldn't be surprised if part of this setting their age a little bit older is just to make it easier to include them in stories, to not have to baby things down quite so much. And also I think there's possibly a little bit of a people who write the books forgetting how young they are and writing it to a slightly older age group more easily. We'll carry on. "Snoop will be killed," exclaimed the little girl. "Oh, poor dear Snoop," and she wrung her hands in despair. That means you are wringing your hands is this sort of thing, where you're rubbing them together and squeezing them like you're shaking hands, but you're moving them past each other. That's the general thing when they talk about wringing their hands. "Oh, no. What am I going to do?" sort of thing. Yeah. I don't know why. It just is. "Let him down," shrieked Freddie. "Oh, Bert, please let my dear kitten down, won't you?" Bert did not hear, for he was running over the common just as hard as he could in his endeavour to raise the kite. Up and up it went, so he hasn't seen that Snoop's on the tail, with poor Snoop dangling helplessly at the end of the swaying tail. That's a pretty strong kite if it can cope with the weight of a kitten on it. At last Bert ran past the old barn, which I've already mentioned. Just as he did this, he happened to look up at the kite. "Hello, what's on the..." because he's running and pulling it behind him. "Hello, what's on the tail?" he yelled. "Is that a cat?" "It's Snoop," called out Freddie, who was rushing after his big brother. "Oh, Bert, do let him down. If he falls, he'll be killed." "Well, I never," stated Bert. He stopped running, and gradually the kite began to settle close to the top of the barn. Poor Snoop was swinging violently at the end of the ragged tail. The swinging brought the frightened creature closer still to the barn, and all of a sudden Snoop let go of the kite tail and landed on the shingles. So he's landed on the roof of the barn. "Snoop is on the barn!" cried Bert as the kite settled on the grass a few yards away. "Oh, Snoop, Snoop, are you hurt?" cried Freddie, running back a distance so that he might get a view of the top of the barn, because he was too close under the wall to be able to see onto the roof. Evidently Snoop was not hurt, but he was still scared, for he stood on the edge of the roof with his tail standing straight up. "Meow, meow, meow," he said plaintively. "He's asking for somebody to take him down," said Freddie. "Aren't you, Snoop?" "Meow," answered the black kitten. Oh dear me, what will you do now? Cried Flossie as she came chasing up. Perhaps I can get onto the roof from the inside, said Bert, and he darted quickly into the barn. There were a pair of rickety stairs leading to the barn loft, and these he mounted. In the loft all was dark and full of cobwebs, so it's definitely a disused barn. Here and there were small holes through the roof, through which the water came every time it rained. Snoop, Snoop, he called, putting his mouth close to one of the holes. The kitten turned around in surprise. He hardly knew from whence the voice came. From whence? Where the voice came from. From whence the voice came. Yes, I know it's more proper, but it sounds really weird and awkward. But he evidently knew Bert was calling, for he soon came in that direction. As the barn was an old one and not fit to use, Bert felt it would do no harm to knock a shingle or two from the roof. No, actually, it is still harming it, but I think you mean it would not be a problem if he were to knock a couple of shingles out. Because he's still damaging it. That is harm. Say what you're actually trying to say, please. Looking around, he espied, more fancy words, a stout stick of wood lying on the floor, and with this he began an attack on the shingles and soon had two of them broken away. He saw a strong piece of wood stick, a strong stick, a sturdy stick, a stout stick of wood lying on the floor. What other sort of sticks have you got? Lying on the floor, and with this he began an attack on the shingles. With this he started poking or hitting or something, an attack. Trying altogether too hard, sir, and soon had two of them broken away. Come, Snoop, he called, looking out of the hole. Come here. But the sound of the blows had frightened the kitten, and Snoop had fled to the slope of the roof on the opposite side of the barn. Of course he had. So now you go and hit that side, and hopefully he'll come back. Where is he? Called the boy to the twins below. Gone to the other side, said Freddie. Don't like the noise, I guess. Chase him over here, returned Bert. Both Freddie and Flossie tried to do so, but Snoop would not budge. But he stood on the very edge of the roof as if meditating a spring to the ground, thinking about. This is little kids' books. Meditating. I'm just going to sit here and cross my legs and put my palms together and close my eyes and hum. I'm meditating, springing to the ground. Shall I spring to the ground? Words draw pictures in people's heads. If you are writing books, please choose your words carefully. Write roughly, fast, as your first draft, and then after that, go through and polish and rephrase and reword parts of it, okay? You get a chance to choose what words go in, and don't put words in that pull people out of the story so that they do my little mini rants or whatever their version is, okay? Write in ways that people want to keep reading and get so drawn in that they don't get distracted by your word choice. Meditating a spring to the ground. Thinking about jumping to the ground? Considering jumping off the roof? I don't know. Don't jump. Please don't jump, Snoop, pleaded Flossie. If you jump, you'll surely break a leg or maybe your back. It's a cat. Aren't they meant to land on their feet? Whether Snoop understood this or not, it would be hard to say. But he did not jump, only stayed where he was and meowed louder than ever. Can't you drive him over? Said Bert after a long... Why is Bert not over there banging the underside of the roof to scare him back? And he'll see the hole on the other side and then go in through the hole because it's an easy way, and that's where Bert's voice was coming from before. Can't you drive him over? Said Bert after a long wait. Won't come, said Freddie. Wants to jump down, I guess. Hearing this, Bert ran down to the lower floor and outside. Can't you get a ladder? Asked Flossie. Perhaps Mr. Roscoe will lend you one. Mr. Roscoe lived at the other end of the common. He was very old and a very quiet man, and the majority of the girls and boys in Lakeport were afraid of him. He lived all alone and was thought to be odd. I can see, said Bert hesitatingly. He ran across the common to Mr. Roscoe's house and rapped on the door. Nobody came, and he rapped again, and then a third time. "Who's there?" asked a voice from within. "Please, Mr. Roscoe, is that you?" said Bert. "Yes." "Well, our kitten is on the top of your old barn and can't get down. Can you lend me a ladder to get him down with?" "Kitten? On my barn? How'd he get there?" And now the old man opened the door slowly and cautiously. He was bent with age and had white hair and a long white beard. "He went up with a kite," said Bert, and explained the case, to which the old man listened with interest. "Well, well, well," exclaimed Mr. Roscoe in a high piping voice. "Well, well, well." No, I'm going to ignore the high piping voice bit. "Going to take a sail through the air, was he? You'll have to build him a balloon, eh?" "I think he'd better stay on the ground after this." "He might be a high flyer of a cat," said the old man, chuckling over his joke. He's probably missed contact with people because everyone thinks he's odd or weird or something like this. But he's actually probably got a really good sense of humour. See, because often people who are on their own are very observant, and then they'll also see the humour in something. "Will you lend me a ladder?" went on Bert. "Certainly, my lad. The ladder is in the cowshed yonder, but you have to raise it yourself or get somebody to raise it for you. My back is too old and stiff for such work." "I'll try it alone first," answered the boy. He soon had the long ladder out and was dragging it across the common. It was very heavy, and he wondered who he could get to help him raise it. Your sisters and brother?" "Nan does have arms and legs and hands, I'm sure." "That's better than one person. You've got two people." Just then Danny Rugg came along. "What are you doing with old Roscoe's ladder?" he asked. Bert was on the point of telling Danny it was none of his business, but he paused and reflected. He wanted no more quarrels with the big boy. "I'm going to get our cat down from the barn roof," he answered. "Huh. Do you want to help me raise the ladder, Danny?" "Me? Not much. You can raise your own ladder." "All right, I will, if you don't want to help me," said Bert, the blood rushing to his face. "So that's your cat, is it?" cried Danny, looking toward the barn. "I wouldn't have such a black beast as that. We've got a real Maltese in our house." "We like Snoop very much," answered Bert, and went on with his ladder. Danny hunted for a stone and, watching his chance, threw it at Snoop. It landed close to the kitten's side and made Snoop run to the other side of the barn roof. "Stop that, Danny Rugg!" cried a voice from the other end of the common. He threw it a long way then. And Nan appeared. She had just heard about the happening to Snoop and was hurrying to the spot to see if she could be of assistance. So she wasn't there? I thought she was. "Oh, go on with your old cat," sneered Danny, and shuffled off past Mr. Roscoe's house. The old man had come out to see what Bert was going to do with the ladder, and now he came face to face with Danny Rugg. "Well, is it possible?" murmured the old man to himself. "That boy must belong round here after all." When Bert reached the barn, he found a dozen boys collected, and several volunteered to assist him in raising the long ladder. It was hard work, and once the ladder slipped, but in the end it rested against the barn roof, and then Bert went up in a hurry. "Come, Snoop," he called, and the kitten came and perched himself on Bert's shoulder. When Bert came down the ladder, those standing around set up a cheer, and Freddie and Flossie clapped their hands in delight. "Oh, I'm so glad you got him back," said Freddie, and hugged the kitten almost to death. Not really the best sort of a description in a little kid's book. "What boy was that who threw the stone?" "What boy was that who threw the stone?" asked Mr. Roscoe of Nan, while Bert was returning the ladder to the cowshed. "That was Danny Rugg," answered Nan. "He's a bad boy." "I know he's a bad boy," said Mr. Roscoe. "A very bad boy indeed." And then the old man hurried off without another word. What he said meant a good deal, as we shall soon see. And that's the end of the chapter, and we have one last chapter. Chapter 22, The Last of the Ghost. Good night. The rescue of the kitten was the main subject of conversation that evening in the Bobbsey household. "I never dreamed he would go up with the kite," said Flossie. "After this, we'll have to keep him in the house when Bert and Freddie do their kite flying." Bert had seen Danny Rugg throw the stone at the kitten and was very angry over it. He had also seen Danny talk to Nan. I'm wondering if they had followed the idea the kitten would have then actually gone down to where the hole was on the other side of the roof, and Bert could have stuck his head out and the kitten would have come to him, in which case it wouldn't have been so bad after all. And he didn't hit the kitten. The rock landed near the kitten. Bert had seen Danny Rugg throw the stone at the kitten and was very angry over it. He had also seen Danny talk to Nan. "I think he's an awful boy," declared Nan, "and Mr. Roscoe thinks he's bad too." "He'd better stop throwing things or he'll get himself into trouble before long," said Bert. "It is odd Mr. Ringley never having heard about the window," whispered his twin sister. "So it is, but it may come out yet," replied his brother. That evening the Bobbseys had their first strawberry shortcake of the season. Strawberries are very early there. It was a beautiful cake, one of Dinah's best, and the strawberries were large and luscious. "Want another piece?" said Freddie, smacking his lips. "It's so good, Mama." "Freddie, I think you've had enough," said Mrs. Bobbsey. "Oh, Mama, just a little piece more," pleaded Freddie, and received the piece much to his satisfaction. "Strawberries is beautiful," he declared. "I'm going to raise a whole lot on the farm this summer." "Oh, Mama, are we going to Uncle Dan's farm this summer?" burst out Nan eagerly. "Perhaps, Nan," was the reply. "I expect a letter very shortly." "Meadow Brook's a dandy place," said Bert. "Such a fine swimming hole in the brook." "Oh, I love the flowers and the chickens and cows," said Flossie. "I like the rides on loads of hay," said Nan. The children talked the subject over until it was time to go to bed. Their Uncle Dan and Aunt Sarah lived at Meadow Brook, and so did their cousin Harry, a boy a little older than Bert, and one who was full of fun and very good-natured in the bargain. Bert went to bed with his head full of plans for the summer. What glorious times they could have after school closed if they went to their uncle's farm. It was a full hour before Bert got to sleep. The room was quite bright, for the moon was shining in the corner window. The moon made him think of the ghost he had once seen, and he gave a little shudder. He never wanted to see that ghost again. Bert had been asleep less than an hour when he awoke with a start. He felt sure somebody had touched him on the foot. He opened his eyes at once and looked toward the end of his bed. The ghost was standing there. At first Bert could scarcely believe that he saw aright, but it was true, and he promptly dove under the covers. And then he thought of Danny Rugg's cry, "Afraid of a ghost!" And he felt that he ought to have more courage. "I'm going to see what that is." "Thank you, Shoo. I do appreciate it," he said to himself, and shoved back the covers once more. The figure in white had moved toward the corner of the room. It made no noise, and Bert wondered how it would turn next. "Wonder what will happen if I grab it or yell," he said to himself. With equal silence, Bert crawled out of bed. Close at hand stood his baseball bat, which he had used a few days before. It made a formidable club, and he took hold of it with a good deal of satisfaction. "Want another piece of strawberry shortcake?" came to his ears. "Please give me another piece of strawberry shortcake." Bert could hardly believe his ears. It was the ghost that was speaking. It wanted strawberry shortcake. "Freddie!" he almost shouted. "Freddie, is that you?" So it was the ghost that was speaking. The ghost did not answer, but turned toward the door leading into the hallway. Bert ran after the figure in white and caught it by the arm. The ghost was really Freddie, and he was walking in his sleep with his eyes tightly closed. "Well, I declare," murmured Bert. "Why didn't we think of this before?" Some of us did. "Please let me have another piece of strawberry shortcake, Mama," pleaded the sleepwalker. "Just a tiny little piece." Bert had heard that it was a bad thing to awaken a sleepwalker too suddenly, so he took Freddie's arm very gently and walked the little fellow back to his bedroom and placed him on his bed. Then he shook him very gently, so he's in his bed where he ought to be, with the normal setting, the normal feels around him. Then he shook him very gently. "Oh!" cried Freddie. "Oh, what do you want? Let me sleep. It isn't time to get up yet." "Freddie, I want you to wake up," said Bert. "Who's talking?" came from across the hallway in Mr. Bobbsey's voice. "I'm talking, Papa," answered Bert. He ran to the doorway of his parents' bedroom. "I've just found out who the ghost is," he continued. "The ghost?" Mr. Bobbsey leapt up. "Where is it?" "In bed now. It was Freddie, walking in his sleep. He was asking for another piece of strawberry shortcake." By this time the whole household was awake. "Oh, Freddie, was it really you?" cried Nan, going to the little fellow. "Wasn't walking in my sleep," said Freddie. "Was dreaming about shortcake, that's all. Want to go to sleep again." And he turned over on his pillow. "Let him sleep," said Mrs. Bobbsey. "We'll have to consult the doctor about this. He will have to have something for his digestion and eat less before going to bed in the future." And the next day the doctor was called in and gave Freddie something which broke up the sleepwalking to a very large extent. I did not know that eating too much before you went to bed caused you to sleepwalk, did you? Obviously, that's what they believed at the time this was written. I'm glad you caught Freddie," said Nan to her twin brother. "If you hadn't, I should always have believed we had seen a ghost." "I'm glad I don't walk in my sleep," said Flossie. "I might tumble downstairs and break my nose." "I shall watch Freddie in the future," said Mrs. Bobbsey, and she did. When Bert went to school the next day, he met Danny Rugg, and the tall boy glared at him very angrily. "Think you're smart, don't you?" said Danny. "I'm not going to stand it, Bert Bobbsey." "Oh, Bert, come along and don't speak to him," whispered Nan, who was with her twin brother. "Went and saw Ringley, didn't you?" went on Danny, edging closer. "Keep away, Danny Rugg," answered Bert. "I want nothing to do with you, and I haven't been to see Mr. Ringley." "Yes, you did go and see him," insisted Danny. "Wasn't he to see my father last night?" "Did Mr. Ringley come to see your father?" asked Bert curiously. "Yes, he did, and my father—" "But never mind that now," broke off the tall boy. He'd been on the point of saying that his father had given him a severe thrashing. "I'm going to fix you, Bert Bobbsey." "Don't you dare strike my brother, Danny Rugg," put in Nan, stepping in between them. How much further the quarrel might have gone it is impossible to say, but just then Mr. Tetlow put in an appearance and Danny sneaked off in great haste. Doesn't stop it happening again when it's more opportune. When the children came from school, they learned that Mrs. Bobbsey had been downtown buying some shoes for herself and Flossie. "Mr. Ringley was telling me about his broken window," she said to her husband. "He found out that Danny Rugg broke it. Old Mr. Roscoe saw Danny do it. He didn't know Danny at the time, but he has found out since who Danny was. Words are very hard. Trust me on this. That Rugg boy is a bad one," answered Mr. Bobbsey. "I suppose Mr. Ringley made the Ruggs pay for the window." "Oh, yes, and Mr. Rugg said he was going to correct Danny, too." Punishment. The children heard this talk but said nothing at the time, but later Nan called Bert out into the garden. "I see it all," she whispered to her twin brother. "That's why Mr. Roscoe asked me who Danny was, and that's why he said Danny was such a bad boy." I'm glad in one way that Danny has been found out, answered Bert, for that clears me, and he was right, for he never heard of the broken window again. Doesn't stop Danny from blaming you for it, though. The children were still waiting anxiously for a letter from their Uncle Dan or their Aunt Sarah. At last a letter came, and they listened to it with great delight. I'm just going to listen to my mail. Hang on a minute. Great delight. I'm listening to my letters. Old use of language is weird sometimes. They listen to it in great delight. Mother is reading the letter to them. Yes, it's obvious that that's what's happening, but it's just such weird phrasing. Oh, what do you think? Cried Nan, dancing up to Bert. We're to go to Meadow Brook as soon as the vacation begins. Good, shouted Bert, throwing his cap into the air. Won't we have the best times ever was? And this proved to be a fact. What happened to the Bobbsey twins at Meadowbank will be told in another book, which I shall call The Bobbsey Twins in the Country. The country is a lovely place, especially in summertime, and all of my young readers can rest assured that the twins enjoyed themselves at Meadowbrook to the utmost. I will be so glad to see Cousin Harry again, said Bert, and I'll be glad to see Aunt Sarah, piped in Freddie. She makes such beautiful pies. Every time Freddie says beautiful, the first half, beau, is italicized, just to give us that emphasis. She makes such beautiful pies. Think of the lovely big barn, put in Flossie. It's just like a palace to play in on wet days. Oh, Flossie, to compare a barn to a palace, exclaimed Nan. But it is a nice place after all, she added after a moment's thought. That evening, to celebrate the good news, the twins gave a little party to half a dozen of their most intimate friends. There was music and singing and all sorts of games and a magic lantern exhibition by one of the boys. All enjoyed it greatly and voted the little party a great success. Good night, said the young folks to each other when the party broke up. And here let us say good night too, for my little story has reached its end. And I'm not going to read past there because the rest is promotional material from Stratemeyer Syndicate for other book series they've got, and then also the Project Gutenberg stuff. It just amuses me that Project Gutenberg keeps that end matter in, but it makes sense too because that's in the actual book that they're working from. So there you go. That's the end of the story. I'll tell you what the other books are. Not the individual books, but the series that they've got. The famous Rover Boys series by Arthur W. Winfield. Each volume is hailed with delight by boys and girls everywhere. And girls. Wow, girls are allowed to enjoy them now too. 12 MO. 12 months? I don't know. Cloth. Oh, I'm spitting. Handsomely bound. Handsomely printed and illustrated. Price, 60 cents per volume. Postpaid. And then it's got a list of the different ones with their subtitles, such as The Rover Boys at College or The Right Road and the Wrong, brimming over with good nature and excitement. There you go. Cloth bound. Let's just see if I have any old books right here. I don't. I'll have to show them to you some other time. So, old books, it's cardboard. When they talk about cloth bound, a hardcover book in the old days was cardboard with a thin fabric that went round it that was held in place by using something that was kind of, my impression of it was that it was like a type of paint and glue combined. So it would hold that cloth to the board, the cardboard, but it would also form a colouring for it. And they would press them between plates to get them so that they were really smooth in the process of them being dried. And so that's why they look smart. And then they'd also emboss them and all sorts of things like that. So a lot of old books, the hardcover ones, are cloth bound, as opposed to the ones that when I was growing up, the newer children's editions ones by Dean and Son, those sort of ones, they were cardboard that had a glossy printed paper wrapped around it that was glued to it. So instead of being a loose dust jacket, you would still get all of the fancy stuff you get on a dust jacket, but it was actually, that was the cover of the book instead of being a loose thing. Anyway, so series that they are recommending, the famous Rover Boys series, 4 pages of those. The Putnam Hall series, companion stories to the famous Rover Boys series by Arthur M. Winfield. Additional information. Open-air pastimes have always been popular with boys and should always be encouraged as they provide healthy recreation both for the body and the mind. These books mingle adventure and fact and will appeal to every manly boy. But what about the boys that aren't manly? What about manly girls? What about boys and girls that aren't manly? And anyone else? I don't know. It's just the way they were trying to pitch them, trying to sell them. Anyway, so there's a whole lot of books about the Putnam Hall. Other volumes in preparation, published by Grosset and Dunlap, New York. The Rise in Life series by Horatio Alger Jr. or Alger. I don't know which way it's pronounced. I have not heard of these ones. I didn't think Horatio Alger Jr. actually did books for Stratemeyer Syndicate, but maybe it's Grosset and Dunlap. These are copyrighted stories which cannot be obtained elsewhere. They are the stories last written by this famous author. 12 MO. I really don't know what that means. 12 of them. Handsomely printed and illustrated, bound in cloth, stamped in coloured inks. Price 40 cents per volume, postpaid. And there's a few of those. Quite a few. The Flag of Freedom series by Captain Ralph Bonehill. This is Grosset and Dunlap's extra material. A favourite line of American stories for American boys, every volume complete in itself and handsomely illustrated. And I won't give you the extra stuff. No, that's more about the actual individual books. So those are like historic setting. The Frontier series, stories of early American exploration and adventure for boys by Captain Ralph Bonehill. The historical background is absolutely correct, and it's capitalized. Carrying on, the Great Newspaper series by Howard R. Garris, who did write a lot for Stratemeyer Syndicate, but not under his own name. He was one of their writers. The author is a practiced journalist, and these stories convey a true picture of the workings of a great newspaper. I bet you didn't know that there'd be an engrossing series of children's books, young adult, older children's books about running a newspaper. 1, 2, 3. There's only 3 in that one. By Roy Rockwood, the Deep Sea series. No manly boy ever grew tired of sea stories. There is a fascination about them, and they are a recreation to the mind. Adrift on the Pacific, the cruise of the treasure ship, the rival ocean divers. By Alan Chapman, the Railroad series. Ralph is determined to be a railroad man. He starts in at the foot of the ladder, but is full of manly pluck and wins out. Boys will be greatly interested in his career. And there's only 3 in that one. And that's the end of all the promo guff at the end of the book about various books you could buy at the time, including their pricing, because prices didn't change as much as what they do these days. Anyway, so that's it for the book today. And while we still have a little bit more time, I'm just going to show you only 2 pictures when I find them. Not that one. Where did I put it? Don't say I went and put it into another folder. There, found it. I didn't. Good. So this is the one, this is the model I was going to get. Let's turn off keywords because they're in the way. So this is the model I was going to get, but I discovered that even though I'd ordered it, it was actually coming from overseas and it wasn't going to be here till June. And I know that I'm not actually going to be starting this on the day of my anniversary of my first stream, because that's long gone now. That's a month ago. But actually nearly a month ago, not quite. But I think June is a little bit too far out, so we're not doing this one. This is meant to be a magic bookshop. And Guriki was amused by the stairs coming up here and then going up at the angle past there. Let's see if I can put it behind my camera. I might be able to. Where's book? Where is the book? Illustrate. I clicked on something else, didn't I? So I don't know where it is. There it is. Okay, so where's the camera? Put that behind there, see if it works. Kind of. Let's move it over a bit now. It just means I can point to things, that's all. Yeah, ignore the sign and stuff like that. So, you've got the stairs that come up here, and then they come up here, and they're really steep. But he was amused by the fact that this is the floor for the upper level here. It's got a railing around it that runs back around, and then it comes forward again over here. That you would have to be a dwarf or a pet rabbit or something to be able to get up there underneath that, because his mind, like mine, runs to the practicalities of things. So this one is not the one we're getting, and I'm quite relieved in some ways with these extra bits pointed out. I did actually watch someone building it online, and I was a little bit disappointed by, you don't notice it here, but these walls here, they don't have any texture print on them or anything like that. They actually look like very, very scruffy white paper that's been stuck on them, if it's anything like the actual original. And also there's no way of covering, they didn't cover the wiring that goes down in the corners to feed to the lights. These kits actually have lights in them, so there's a light there, you can see there's light shining there, there's one here, there's light up in these corners here, and they have battery. You provide the battery, and then you can turn a little switch on so the light shines on them. So they actually look quite cool. But we're not getting that one because we can't wait for June, can we? We're going to get this one. I'll just move the picture yet again. Actually. Oopsie, losing letters. Not such a good idea. The letters in my letterbox are a bit loose. There's not one down the back. At least I know what words they were meant to make. Oh yeah, I got a cute duck. Easter. The spots on the front are 3 yellow flowers, plus the lighting. Just to add to my duck collection. I was going to surprise Gotti here with it one day, but I couldn't wait. I just like, no, that's my duck. I'm having that. Right. There you go. Now you can see it, because I've got most of the stuff out of the way. So, yeah, it's got a little name on top. It's called the Book House. It's got a floor up here with bookshelves at the end, but this one uses a ladder to go up to it. And it's got less weirdly random stuff sitting on the floor in the actual building setup. I don't have any other pictures of it that I'm going to be showing you. So you've got a ceiling light here that's hanging. Some of the books in the kits for each of them is made as a little wee, you make up a little box which is pre-printed with the spines of books on them, and then you slide it into the bookshelf. And then other ones, it is a little piece of the sort of timber that they actually have laser cut for everything else. And then you wrap a little piece of paper around it that has a picture of a book on it. And then other ones, you actually take a bundle of pieces of paper and you stack them together and you wrap another piece of paper around it as the cover and you glue it. So there's all sorts of things. This one I actually see, like the bottom half of there, that's one of those the boxes that is actually one little unit of stiff paper that's got pictures of books printed on it, whereas these ones up here are individual pieces. And there are a lot of people do glue the different decorations in place because they don't want them falling over, but you can actually leave a lot of stuff loose and rearrange it, so it doesn't have to be set up looking just like this. Like I don't have a tendency to leave books lying around fanned open in real life. Even turning them page down so you don't lose your page. I don't tend to do that. I think the last time I seriously did that, I was probably in my late teens. And it was only because I was going to get something from another room and coming straight back. I don't like doing that. I don't like leaving a book spread open so it's got pressure on the spine, because you can actually crack the gluing that's holding all those pages together. So you've got the things like the fake plant, which you may cut up out of little printed leaves, and then you squeeze them together with some glue over the coloured wires and things like that. A lot of these kits use various beads for different jobs. So like, I don't know about this one, but often oh, there you go. At the back there, I don't know if that's intended to look like a lamp or if it's intended to look like a crystal ball, but it's actually a clear bead on top of some other jewellery jewellery findings are the little bits and pieces you used, the hardware that you use to assemble to make jewellery. So there's all sorts of bits and pieces. I quite like this one. In fact, I think I like this one more than the other. So you get things like these flowers here. You have a little wire, you fold up a little bunch of paper in the middle, which you've cut one end of it, and then you roll some more paper around the outside edge as the petals with little slits around it so you can splay them out a bit. So there's all this sort of stuff, but it has meant I needed to get some bits and pieces, and I did show you some of them. Why am I talking about this? Because we're still half an hour off when I would normally finish. But I'm also really pleased, and I want to show you that I have actually been doing things to get ready. So I did get my set of tweezers, and I've waved them at you before. I will be using my face camera, this one here, which works far better for focus as the one that looks down on what I'm working on. And I will use my cat camera as my Gamer Boy view of me looking at what I'm doing. I've just got to get that all set up. I haven't done it yet. But I'm also probably going to use the desk that's alongside me as my workspace. And I'm really, really pleased. I was very worried for a while. I could not find this, and I wanted to put my camera on it, and I was really disappointed because I could not find it. My office has had a little bit more of a sort out, and some rubbish has been thrown away. Yay. But I found it. It was exactly where it should have been. And apparently I didn't look there. So it's got a little wee remote control for shutters, and it's got a phone holder that you can fasten onto the top of it. And what it is actually a mobile phone camera tripod, or other things that are fairly lightweight. I have used it before. I was doing a cooking thing in my kitchen one time, kind of recently. It's not big, it's not heavyweight. It does actually extend reasonably. So if I pull that out, there you go. That's how long the legs are, from there all the way through to there. Okay, so that's not bad. Oh, certainly wouldn't put any weight on it. It's very thin. It's lots of plastic. It's got, hang on, loosen it. Is that the way? No, that's the wrong way. It's got a handle like a proper one, and if you turn it, it locks it. It also has a threaded piece on the top for mounting your camera, if you are using a camera, or your mobile phone clip has a thing so you can mount it on there. You can also mount it into the back of this, because you can change the angles that you have this at. And that one's a clamp. And also, this can also have angles changed sideways on the top. Pretty good for 20 bucks. And you can rotate this around if you loosen that up, and you can make it taller by pulling this up. This has actually got a groove on each side of it, and a piece that pokes into that groove, which means that the shaft won't turn. So that's why you have this, so you can adjust it to rotate just that top cluster. So yeah, and this means I can have it sitting on my desk alongside me and pointing at my camera. Now, the camera that I have, the Stream Cam, doesn't actually, it uses a little bracket like it uses a little fold up bracket like this on the back of it, except it's got an extra piece here so you can adjust it for how well it holds on because of the angle. So my Stream Cam has something like that, but it's got an extra adjustment for angle on the top, and you can rotate it as well. Okay, it's a slightly upgraded version of this. I wouldn't have been able to afford to buy it, but it was lovely to get it. So because it doesn't have this on the end, doesn't have a receiver for the thread, because it's already got its own bracket on it, I was like, oh, how am I going to fasten it on? I suppose I could just stick it on with hair ties and bits of elastic and string and packing tape, because we've done that sort of thing before and we're quite good at that sort of kludging things together. Why not, when you've got lots of packing tape and duct tape and stuff? And then I thought, I'll have a look online and see how if it's possible that people have them around, or where to get them from, or anything else like that. And somebody was saying that they had actually found a build file for making one with a 3D printer, and they got a little metal insert that they actually had the 3D printer work around. And then somebody else said, well, I didn't think I had a camera, a bracket for that. But then I found the old box that my Logitech Stream Cam came in, and it had a second bracket to put the camera in, which actually has the threaded receiver for the standard camera mount. And I'm like, oh, that looks familiar, because I saw a picture of one. And I'm like, I think I've seen one of those in real life. I wonder where it is. So there you go. It's got a thread inside it. It's a metal thread inside the plastic end. And so my one, the camera actually just clips into here. It's got a little wee bump, friction fit sort of thing. And I pull it out of the other one and I shove it into here after this is screwed onto the end of the tripod, and it works. And I tested it and it works. And I was thinking, that didn't clip on properly the first couple of times I tried it. And then I was just fiddling around and trying how it fitted in the other one. And I've just realized the reason why it wasn't staying as well as I thought it would is because it tapers slightly. Instead of tapering that way, it's actually tapering that way, ever so slightly. I don't know if you can tell, but it does. It's narrower at the top at the moment. If I put it that way, you might notice it. Sometimes if you turn things around a few times, you actually notice the change, and it's because this has a slight taper. Because even though my camera has a vertical, a portrait or a landscape orientation, depending on which way up you put the camera, the back half of the camera actually is the same each way. It's square overall. So there you go. Yay, we can put this on the tripod. And so this is in my little pot of bits and pieces to not lose. I've got my tweezers for picking up putting little books into bookshelves. It'll be a long time before we get to the bookshelf stage, putting books on bookshelves. And the biggest thing that was hardest for me to do was to source the sort of glue I need, because people say when you're doing these sort of models, you've got to be really careful that you don't use glue that makes the paper because they are made with paper as the coating for the picture side of it, like the covers of the books, that doesn't make them wet, because that makes them go all wrinkly and then they don't look very nice. So I had got this. I had to pay extra because it's got solvent in it, The paying extra was for the shipping because it is dangerous goods. It's glue. We didn't have any of this sort of glue at any of the places I could normally get it, because I wanted a glue that was clear as well as having solvent rather than water. So I got that one, which I'd already told you about, but I also found that my local department store, the warehouse, did have what they call, let's see if we can get it so it will see it and focus, silicone glue. And this also has solvent in it. This one has a little bit more flexibility. So I have the choice of the two. This one I suspect actually dries slightly quicker, so that will be really good. And I got 2 of them because they're really, really small bottles. And I thought if I'm ordering, it's click and collect, so there's a very minimal charge on it to get them to freight it to the actual branch that I have locally, because they didn't have any in stock. So yay! I've got things nearly ready for it. I couldn't stream from that setup today because it wouldn't have worked for reading books. There's my tools. And just so you're not worried, I still have my actual kit here. Yay. It's not going to be very big, okay? But it's got lots of lovely little detailed pictures on the back of various parts of it. And it's got, somewhere on it, it's got a code number, which I looked up. And yes, you can actually see other pictures of some of the details. It's very, very basic. It's not fancy. I will eventually one day, well, over the course of more than one day, do a bunch of different ones like this. I would love to. I would love to have a collection behind me of various book nooks and model kits that have some association with books. There's another book nook that I really wanted to get ages ago, which once again I still couldn't afford it, which is why I didn't get it. It's a buildings, it's one of the skinny book nooks, so you put it in your bookshelf and you look into it rather than look at the side of the outside of it, unlike these ones. And it has overhanging trees. They are cherry trees with blossoms on them, which I think mean they're little paper flowers that you have to stick on. And then at the back of the scene, there's one end of a suburban train, which is crossing a little bridge which is above a creek, and the creek or stream runs through the middle instead of a street, which most of the other ones that you see these days are either inside a building or they're between buildings where you see a little wee alleyway. So this one has a little wee stream down the middle with a footpath on each side and some stairs that go up, and there's a shop on one side and things like this. And I looked at it and it was like, oh, even though it's not specifically book related, because I love books, it was still one of those ones that really just resonated. And I think one day, if I ever have enough money to do it and time, I will do that. So I am looking forward to giving this a go. We will see together how well that works. Now, I do realize that because the glues are not instant drying, because super glue is not good for making this sort of stuff, that we may not get very much actual model making done on stream. I am hoping to do more than one stream with it, but if it's lots of putting things together and then waiting long periods of time, I'm likely to actually do a little bit of Disney Dreamlight Valley while we're waiting for things to dry a little bit, if we do actually have to wait, or get a bunch of stuff done and that's all I can do for today's stream, but we've still got another hour and a half to go. I'll play some Disney Dreamlight Valley because there was an update recently, like very recently. I haven't actually played it yet. I've been into the game since then because I needed to check out Scrooge's store to see if there was anything I'd missed, because you don't want to do that don't want to miss them too often. So the update, it's for the free game. It's not it's a free update, not an expansion pass. And this one is the arrival of Pocahontas and at least one creature associated with her or with the story. I'm trying to remember if I ever actually watched the Disney Pocahontas or not. I know about it, but I don't and I know what a couple of the characters look like quite well, but that doesn't mean that I actually watched it, because there's a lot of these movies that are old Disney movies for a lot of people. I'm old enough that they're still, to me, a little bit new. Like, there's a movie that's about a horse running around on the prairies, I guess, in the States, which one of my daughter's friends absolutely loved because she was mad on horses. And it was one of her favorite movies. And at the time, it was a brand new movie. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So to me, it's still a new movie, even though it's been out for so long, because she's like a full-grown adult. Older than my son is. So, and that one I can't remember what it is. Anyway, so Pocahontas is going to be there. There's one of the things that you can either earn through the Star Path, or it's going to be in Scrooge's store, and I'm not sure which, is where you get these leaves or something that swirl around. But in the story that you follow, the quests that you follow to actually bring Pocahontas back to the valley, because in the game, all of these are characters that used to be in Dreamlight Valley with you, and because of the forgetting, you have to go and eventually rescue them over time. So part of that is there are different things that are happening in the valley that just give you this idea that there might be someone that may need rescuing from whatever their situation is, and you go and you get them, and they get their memory back, and they come back. And then you get a whole lot of decorating items that are associated with this character or the movie that they're in. Like Aladdin, we had the ones with the palm trees and the mosaic tiles around the bottom of the palm trees, and market stalls that had carpets on them, or pottery. Sometimes there were pottery things, sometimes there were little baskets that you can get from Scrooge's store, or you can craft them. So when you get one of the new updates, you get a bunch of new items that you can craft. You will often, not always, but you'll often get different food items that you can cook in-game, as well as different decorative items that you can buy from Scrooge's store, and occasionally you'll get some clothing items. Although most clothing items these days, when they've got an update, are ones that are released during the Star Path, which is where you do lots of repetitive little tasks. When you complete each of those tasks, you get a certain number of tokens, and then you can spend those tokens towards these specific items that are initially only available through the Star Path. So I haven't started the Star Path. If you are not good at gaming, like I was the very first time I started playing Disney Dreamlight Valley, as in using a keyboard and mouse to navigate your way around, because all of my gaming up till then was either on my phone or was point and click mouse stuff, not keyboard and mouse. So you might think that's easy. It's a huge transition if you've never done it before. And some of you will remember and still get fits of giggles over the way I was really not doing very well with it. In fact, the first 2 times I played, I could only play for a certain amount of time before I started feeling seasick. But these days, I'd have no trouble with it because my brain's finally adapted to it. Some other games, I still get that though. So if you are not used to that sort of thing, it takes a while, and so therefore doing the Star Paths are quite freaky because they have a limited amount of time you can do them in. So you want to start them as soon as you can and work really hard at them to make sure you achieve everything, so you get all the goods that come on the Star Path. Because you get a companion animal, you'll get a house for them, you'll get furnishing items. Some of them are big and some of them are little, and you get clothing items as well. All sorts of cool stuff. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff that's with it. And if you haven't played the games before, and you haven't played any of that sort of game before, it's a bit freaky because you're struggling to know how to get around without turning around in circles too fast, or falling over, or running into things, or knowing how to move around stuff, because you're using controls that you're not used to using. Yes, you can probably do it with a controller. I have the use of a controller, but I have spent more time using a keyboard and mouse than I have ever used a controller. And anyone who's watched me play certain games with a controller will know that. That's good for a laugh, isn't it, folks? Yes, just nod and laugh, okay? So if you haven't done that sort of game control before, if you're just used to point and click games. It can be quite stressful when the first time you do a star path, because you don't want to miss out on these lovely things. Now, I love Disney Dreamlight Valley, but I also get so frustrated with it. So there's likely to be a bit of that going on in between sessions on doing the model. I'm not promising when I'm next going to be reading, okay, because I do want to give the model a bit of time to do on camera and share that with you, because I think it's going to be quite fun to just sort of explore how they put things together. And, you know, 2 beads and some necklace ends, and oh look, we've now actually got a very, very fancy lamp. And in my mind, I can see how that works because I've seen that sort of thing before. But for a lot of other people, they're not used to reusing something in a completely different way. And a lot of these models do that rather than having custom made pieces for absolutely everything. So with these ones, they actually have sheets of very thin plywood that they cut using machines, probably laser cutters, just because it's so easy to program them, just set them up and let them cut. And then they put them all together, they leave them in the sheet form where you just have to cut through a couple of little tags to let each of the pieces fall out of that form, and then you assemble them. And it's a really easy way to do something that's quite satisfying and creative, that the people who are buying them are not having to pay hundreds of dollars for every part that you are assembling to be completely uniquely designed and molded in whatever material it's made from, which a lot of other sorts of model making do. So if it can be injection molded from plastic, not so hard. But if it's metals and things like that, and the higher quality ones tend to use a lot more diverse materials as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes, because I actually haven't done any of those sort of models before myself. I've watched a few of them being made, so that should be fun. And this is going to be my low-key celebration of the anniversary of my first stream, which should have been last month, towards the end of the month. So the anniversary of my first stream, just a bit of background. In New Zealand, we had heard that there was this thing going around, an illness, a sickness that was going... Sorry, I need to tickle at my throat. And I know that was the ghost water, but we're not worrying about that. Thank you. Right. So there was this disease that was going around, and it was spreading around the world, and we're all very worried about it. And then we had a lockdown in New Zealand, and that was COVID-19. And in New Zealand, the first lockdown was at the end of March 2020. And I did my very first stream the day after we started lockdown, I think, or maybe 2 days after that. Because in my mind, because we were told, the house that you are in now, the people you are with, you are stuck with them until we say that lockdown is over. We had bubbles. You could have no more than 10 people in a bubble. That means you are not in direct contact with any more than 10 other people, and it's the same 10 people. Okay, got it? So stuff doesn't pass on. I don't know how lockdowns worked for you. That's why I'm explaining it. So we had this, it was very strictly reinforced, things like that. We were sterilizing things, all sorts of things like that. And in my mind, it was, you've got a whole lot of kids who can't go to school and a whole lot of kids who can't go to preschool. And you've probably also got, because parents are adult children are going to be worried about their elderly parents being stuck on their own, and they may bring them to their house, because they gave us a few days warning, may bring them to their homes to live with them so they're not too isolated. Fair enough. So if you've got little kids as well as medium-sized kids, and the really little kids need entertainment, how are you going to entertain them? Well, sometimes grandparents do a lot of that sort of thing. And one of the ideas was, okay, if you've got some medium-sized kids, that if they're sharing things with their grandparents, they will share what they're interested in. Look, Grandma, this is this is my game. I love, what is it you're doing, Johnny? This is a game that I play all the time. Look, and this is how it works. And you go beep, 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 beep. And then he jumps over here and then he does this. And so you've got a child sharing something of their world and the things that they like with their grandparents. And wouldn't it be nice if the grandparents could share the things that they have fond memories of with their grandchildren? And if they don't have access to the books, because for a lot of people, that is one of the things that they're my age and older, because I was actually thinking older than me, that is stuff that they have fond memories of from when they were the ages of their grandchildren, and they would like to be able to share that with them, something of them, something of their world. And so I thought, well, I have easy access to books, because I hadn't even thought of Project Gutenberg at that stage. And so I started reading books, and I was actually reading a book that's still in copyright. Oops. It's now actually not publicly available, but if someone wants to watch any of the videos of it, they can request the YouTube playlist link of me, and if I give them the playlist link, they can watch them. But they are not publicly available. Anyway, so I just read them, and I only read a chapter at a time, and it was anywhere between 5 and 11 minutes each stream. That's how I started. And I just sat there and I propped my phone up. I had the Twitch app on my phone. I had it propped up, sitting on a little wee stool next to me, pointing at me because it was recording me, recording and broadcasting me. And that was it. That was the start. I had problems with trolls, bots at different stages. That's how I got into security and that sort of thing. But that was my first stream, was reading one of those books, because I thought this might be a nice way, instead of sitting down in front of TV to watch something modern, a grandparent might want to look online and discover that somebody is reading books that they remember. Although they wouldn't have been able to find me very well, I know that now. Books that they remember, that they have fond memories of, and they can share it with their grandchild. They don't have to be reading. They can sit there with their grandchild and enjoy them together. So that's how I got here. The fact that I don't read to grandparents with their grandkids doesn't actually matter. We've found each other, haven't we? It's lots of fun. So that's how I got started, and that's what we're celebrating, even though we're not going to actually be doing lots of reading, because I usually do lots of reading. We're going to be doing model making and playing some Disney Dreamlight Ballet. So there you go. I will see you next time. I am looking forward to it because it's anniversary of my first stream. Yes, with model making. That means I've got to use a different category. I hope you don't only find me because you are looking for me in the writing and reading category. Thank you for being here, everybody. It is so good to see you all again, and I look forward to seeing you.